Michael Boyle's StrengthCoach.com presents the Strength Coach Podcast, brought to you by Perform Better, the experts in functional training and rehabilitation. PerformBetter.com.
All right, hey everybody, welcome to episode 247 of the Strength Coach Podcast, the official podcast of Michael Boyle's StrengthCoach.com, the world's best source for strength and conditioning information, brought to you by Perform Better, the experts in functional training and rehabilitation. Check them out at PerformBetter.com. All right, I'm your host, Anthony Renner. The show notes are located on my site at ContinueFit.com. It's where I keep all my other resources, including Strength Coach TV. All right, today on the StrengthCoach.com Coach's Corner, I spoke to Coach Boyle about his article, Treadmill Conditioning, which was actually an article that came from a forum thread, really interesting forum thread about using the treadmill and the incline to kind of create certain speeds. So pretty cool. And we talked about sport-specific training, which has been hot on Coach Boyle's new segment, The Coach's Minute with Coach Boyle, something he's been doing on Instagram and that we've been putting on StrengthCoach.com and having a lot of discussion about. For the Results Fitness University Business and Fitness segment, Rachel Cosgrove finishes her series today. Well, we finished our series together, and today's the balance between kind of competing and being a high-level competitor and possibly intimidating members. So I talked to her about how she kind of deals with that. For the Functional Movement Systems segment, Jenna Gourlay is back on. She's going to do a two-part case study about a baseball player this time that she worked with. For the Train Heroic Data-Driven Coaching segment, Adam Doughty talks to Tim Robinson about trust. Obviously an important topic for both coaches and athletes. For the Hit the Gym with the Strength Coach segment, I have on Joe Bonyai. Joe's the owner of Progressive Resistance and the founder of the 3D Strap. He's also a performance specialist at Elite Health Services in Greenwich, Connecticut. Talked to Joe about sport-specific training just because that's kind of been a big topic lately. He did a post about the Smith machine versus goblet squats that I thought was interesting. I want to talk about that. Young athletes playing multiple sports, do they really need to do that? What he said or called training complex clients. He works in a physical therapy clinic, so he addresses that. His new product, the 3D Strap, and so much more with Joe Bonyai. Joe makes people think on a lot of his posts, so I really wanted to get him on. So good one coming up from Joe. All right, lots of things to get to, so let's get on the phone with Coach Boyle. All right, now it's time for the StrengthCoach.com Coach's Corner with Coach Boyle. StrengthCoach.com, the world's best source for strength and conditioning information. You can try StrengthCoach.com out 3 days, just $1. You'll have access to all the articles, videos, and programs, as well as the best forum on the net. It's the only place to have full access to Coach Boyle. He's on every day answering questions. Check it out at StrengthCoach.com. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Ian. How are you?
All right. You know, I talk about this, best place to have access to you, but you've been you started a new series on Instagram. You didn't call it this. I just called it the Coach's Minute with Coach Boyle because it's a minute long, and I post them on StrengthCoach.com now to kind of get a little bit more conversation going for our members. But that's been going, and it's interesting. You've done, I think the last 5 have been all about sports specific, and I actually talked about Joe Bonyai about this today too on this episode. But give us an overview. Tell everybody who hasn't seen that. We do have a special department where we put all of your coaches' minutes in there so people can access those. But tell us a little bit about what's been going on with some of the questions that you've been getting, because you're answering questions, but we don't know all the questions you're getting.
Right. So probably 10 days or 2 weeks ago, I put up a post because I'd been struggling with my Wisdom Wednesday idea. Like, what am I going to talk about? And so I just put up a post. Give me some questions. What do you guys want to hear about? And I got a ton of questions. I think I got 67 comments or something like that. Most of them, what about this? What about this? So I scrolled through them, and one of them was something like, what do you think about sports-specific training? And I said, I'll start with that one. That's a layup. So I just, as you said, they're minutes. Instagram limits you to a minute video, so I try to keep it to a minute. And I just had said I thought sports-specific training was bullshit, and that it's all the same. And there's 90% the same, 10% different. I don't even remember exactly what I said because I don't rewatch them, to be truthful. But it blew up. I think that one got 10,000 views. And then 10,000 views and God knows, I think 85 comments. And so I just went back into the comments and started answering the questions from the comments in the next one. And it just ended up, it probably could be an endless series if I just kept going to the next comment and making the next video. But at some point, I got to let it die off here. But it basically centers around the idea. And I said this so many times. If you came in and watched, I said this actually in one of the videos. If you watched my group last week, we had the MVP of the 2016 women's lacrosse tournament. We had the women's lacrosse top goal scorer in the world tournament. We had a girl going to the national field hockey camp. We had a basketball player playing in Europe. We had 3 major league pitchers, one of whom's pitched in the last 2 World Series. And we had a couple girls that had played in the Olympics, a couple girls that had played on our women's national team, and a couple that were still playing in the NWHL. All in one group. So we had 10 or 12 people. And if you watch the workout, you would never, if I said, you'd be, I think the basketball guy's the tall guy. Do you know what I mean? And those guys look like pitchers. And the girls, you'd have no idea. And it's like, there's not that much. I said it's 90-10. And I really believe that in most cases, it's about 90-10. It's like everybody rolls, everybody stretches, everybody does plyos, everybody throws medicine balls, everybody runs sprints. Then we go in the weight room, and it's like everybody does hip and leg power, everybody does a knee dominant, everybody does an upper pull. You know what I mean? It's just not. I don't see where people get this idea that there is this stuff that's so sports specific.
I think, when you say 10%, like I was talking to Joe, I think some sports, some things like maybe golf or baseball even, when you have some shoulder stuff that you might want to accomplish with a baseball player or with a golfer, if you're working with a golf pro and they're saying, hey, man, this guy really needs better hip mobility because, he's not turning and he ends up turning his whole body and he's losing power. So you're going to work a little bit more on that. So it might be up to 15 or 20%, quote unquote, golf specific.
Right. And really. Even if it was 80-20 versus 90-10, the point is, I would look at it and think, you don't think my hockey players need hip mobility? You know what I mean? That's the argument I would have with people. You don't think my soccer guys need hip mobility? I think every time someone says, there's something, it goes back to that Marco Cardinale quote that I love, that I use in all my talks. Your sport's not different. You just think it is. And sometimes people are so into their sport that they've convinced themselves that there's all these uniqueness. And one of the things I always said, go golf with a good hockey player. They're usually good golfers. They usually can hit the crap out of the ball because, a guy who can shoot a slap shot, a guy who's got good rotary power is probably going to hit a golf ball well. A guy who can shoot for accuracy is probably going to hit a golf ball well. And so there's all these overlaps. And as you said, I think the baseball pitcher is the most specific thing of anything that I do. And that may be more just because for the last 5 years I've had just pitchers really in the off season. So we've really been able to get truly specific, but as I said, 80-20 would be the outside.
The baseball players are really, a lot of times, pitchers especially, are good golfers because they understand that need for, that ground force production and that rotation of the hips, and right. They always end up.
And that's baseball, and that's even, when you look at, your soccer players, there's so much commonality when you really begin to understand sport. And that's why sometimes I look at people and I think, you're living in this sort of myopic world of blinders because you have a sport that you train people for, that you like, and that it's even now, like you look at golf and, you look at like McIlroy. Some of these guys, he's deadlifting 400 pounds, and that's probably why he's got a bad back. That's not what I would do with a golfer, but we see the golfers on the extreme. And did you see, I think it was Vijay Singh. Did you see the Twitter one of him hitting shit with a sledgehammer? Like awful training stuff. But the point being, he was doing stuff, as bad as you'd see at any crazy CrossFit. And we're talking about one of the greatest golfers in history. And so I guess my thing is that there is so much overlap all the time. I think when you start to argue the sport-specific argument, a lot of times you end up really displaying your ignorance. You start looking at people and saying, hey, it's obvious to me. And that's why one of the guys had made a crack on Twitter about, Eric Cressy's done a really good job of sport-specific, niche development. And I tweeted back, I was like, go look at Eric's workout. Eric's gotten more baseball players to work out heavy probably than anybody in the strength and conditioning world. So, to look at him and say he's a really good example of sports-specific training, I'd be like, I don't think so.
Yeah. And even with me, like at 5 Iron Fitness, I mean, it was very similar to what you're doing there, and people were like, what are you doing different? I'm like, I might be cueing things different with my med balls. I cue things different with lunge. We think about thoracic rotation a little bit more. We think about hip mobility a little bit more. But I have a putting green and I have a thing that they can hit balls for after. And we're speaking the language. I think was really I think if you would have done your last video about, learning the language and, what to say to parents, you might have stopped some of the comments earlier. But yeah, I think it almost comes down to the same thing of personal training versus group training. Like you're basically going to say, well, you're really saying by saying sports specific, you're just saying it's, personal training would be better for them than a group because you want to work on specific things, specific for them, that if they really need hip mobility, they don't need as much thoracic mobility, that you're going to spend more time on that. So it's almost like a similar type of argument.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. It's exactly that in terms of people, you can say, every adult is different. It's like, well, yeah, that's great. If you're doing one-on-one training, then every adult is different. If you're doing adult small group, then you better have your progression regression system in place, and you better realize that, no, they're actually all the same, all two-legged Homo sapiens, 2 arms, same one heart. Like they're all going to be pretty darn similar. And so it is, as you said, it's how you look at it, and it's very much speaking the language, finding a niche from a business standpoint. Hey, you wanted to train golfers, great. But as I said, and I don't mean to be, I don't know what the word is, bold or cocky or conceited, but I've had a big effect on what the TPI people are doing from a training standpoint. I mean, Greg, one of the first things he teaches is joint by joint.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And so, you look at this and think what we're doing from a thought process standpoint has influenced golf. Yep. It's influenced hockey. It's influenced baseball. And the training in general is getting better, which is the important thing. But it's not, I would not say the training is getting specific.
Yeah. And I used to tell people that all the time when they said, what's one of the things that, when I talk to golf pro, I said, teach them joint by joint because they'll understand because they know that the foot needs to be stable and the ankle needs some mobility and then the knee needs more stability and the hips need more mobility. They're going to get it. When you explain joint by joint to them, they'll get it and you're going to start to speak their language. And you talk to them with a golf swing and you show them joint by joint is the perfect example of it. Very cool. So, Coach, I want to talk to you about this. I don't know if you would call this a game changer. I almost felt like this could be a game changer for you, and that was the treadmill interval training that you kind of have, really put your stamp on and kind of changed it and made it simple for people to understand. Talk to us about treadmill interval training and if you've experimented with it, how much you've experimented with it, and if anything's changed already with it.
Well, the good thing is, so treadmill interval training, I love treadmill interval training with our better athletes. I've always loved it. The problem that we ran into was as we start, again, trying to be systematic, we realized when we had our college guys, like my BU guys, conditioning, hey, let's run 10, 30-second, or 4 30-second 10-10s. Get on there, 10 miles an hour, 10% grade. Good, hard workout, doesn't take very long. Guys, we have no problem. Guys get on and off the treadmill easy. Suddenly we start trying to do that at MBSC, and now we've got middle school kids in the mix. We've got kids that are less athletic in the mix. We've got a lot of mass production in the mix, and suddenly getting on and off the treadmill when the belt is moving becomes a really, really big issue. So we've really struggled with, do we even try to do, say, treadmill tempos when we don't have the running space? Because we're going to worry about kids getting shot off the treadmill. So Eugenia Bradshaw, I believe, I have it right, and Tucker, she posted a chart from, I said, the Jack Daniels running book, which I explained in my staff meeting yesterday, has nothing to do with Lynchburg, Virginia. Jack Daniels is a person. And but he had posted a chart basically giving you equivalencies for certain mile paces. So I was like, this is exactly what I needed, because in the past I wasn't able to look and say, okay, let's do this, because in truth, I didn't really know. I couldn't look at it and say, if we ran at 6 miles an hour and at this incline, that would be equivalent to 10 and 10. And suddenly we had that in the chart. So yes, I do think that will be a game changer for us. Although the bad part was, I was informed by Steve Bigelow yesterday at the staff meeting that we did lose an athlete at 5 miles an hour the other day. So it's never perfect.
You're kidding me.
He had said, yeah, you get some kids that aren't super athletic and they don't get on and off the treadmill well. And all of a sudden, 5 miles an hour, that kid, stumbled, dragged, and then realized, okay, I should just let go, and just got thrown on the floor. And luckily, I would tell you, as many people as I've seen get thrown off the moving treadmill, I have never seen anybody get badly hurt. And I've seen some people go by pretty quick, my wife included among them.
You just laugh it off like a little kid, like, oh, no, you're okay, you're okay.
Look at that, because if you go fast, it's relatively painless. You know what I mean? It's like falling down one step kind of thing, in terms of you just get shot off and the next thing you know, you're on the floor. And but I mean, I had one of my friends who, I won't mention her name because she'd be embarrassed by the story, but she did it like right before her wedding. She was running, trying to lose weight, and slipped and fell and like tore the skin off her knees. I mean, it was a mess.
Oh,
it was and so I guess that's the point, is that, I mean, I'll give you the flip side. Clay Buchholz with the Red Sox, we would have treadmills, and the treadmills, basically, if you got thrown off the treadmill, you were hitting the wall behind you, a brick wall, because of how small the room was.
Yeah.
And he'd get on and off the treadmill at 15 miles an hour without his hands. He'd just jump on it, literally, like stand straddling it, and then just jump on, get his legs going, because he was such an unreal athlete. And I would be looking at him like, Buck, don't do that. You're killing me. I can't watch you do this. Oh, fine. And he never had a problem. Never got hurt. Never even stumbled. But 15 miles an hour, just jumping on that thing and getting his legs spinning. And whereas, you take a middle school kid who's relatively uncoordinated, and suddenly 5 miles an hour can be really insurmountable. And even 10, and this is what we said, 10 is only a 6-minute mile. That's not fast. It's not a sprint at all. I mean, and that's what I did. I broke it down into sort of, trying to get it to like 1:10 pace for people to understand. If you think 6-minute miles, a minute 30 quarter, which makes it like 45 second 220, 22 second 100. It's a stride. Most everybody could run 100. Most athletes could easily run 100 yards in 22 seconds. We would have, our good athletes would be in the 15, 16 range doing that. So, that's at 10 miles an hour. So, but when you see that treadmill belt spinning at 10 miles an hour, it looks like 100, as you try to get on it and get your feet moving. So it is a difficult thing. And that, as I said, this incline chart allowed us to probably, we could start at 6 or 7 miles an hour, which is pretty doable for most kids, and be successful. But we've actually realized, I tell everybody, when we've got the middle school kids, we start walking, 2.5 miles an hour, and just get the kids comfortable with the whole process of, the belt is moving, you've got to get on and off the moving belt, and then gradually speed it up. But I just think this will allow us to still continue to get overload while we avoid the higher speeds.
Yeah, are you going to do anything in terms of, like, I know you said you didn't really know where Jack Daniels got this information, but just from a confirmation scientific standpoint, I'll give people an example. Like on the chart, it says if you're going 7 miles an hour on the treadmill and you do a 7% grade, it's like doing a 6:11 mile effort. So, I mean, have you kind of worked out those numbers to figure out?
No,
Okay.
I thought about that. I have no idea where he came up with those numbers and or how to validate that.
Okay, yeah. I figured you're pretty good with math, so sometimes kind of figuring out we just...
Hey, you're right. I mean, I may be able to kind of look at it and think, but I don't even know where to begin. I have no idea what he based the relationships on.
Well, you said...
I think part of it, too, is just let's do it. Let's get some people on there and see, all right, if you do a 10-10 or a 10, let's say you do a 10-10 and then we give you a 6:20 or whatever it is, 6 miles an hour and 20% grade. Do they feel similar?
Yeah.
And I don't know if they will or they won't. So we'll see.
Or if you like what you had said was a 7 mile an hour, 10% grade is like doing an 80-second quarter mile. You can find out if it took you 80 seconds to do a quarter mile.
Right.
By
That's
doing
true.
that. So just validating that distance, I guess, would be the issue. So cool. All right, Coach, we will let you go. I'll have to let everybody know that was called Treadmill Interval Training article. Good stuff. I think we're going to end up talking some more about that at some point as well. So, Coach, thanks for coming on. We'll talk to you next time.
All right. Thanks, Ann. I always appreciate it.
All right, hey guys, right now Perform Better has free shipping on orders over $59. There are a lot of items on sale, so you double dip in here, so it's a good one. Also, the next one-day seminar is in LA on February 2nd with Alan Cosgrove, Greg Rose, and Martin Rooney. Great lineup. Don't miss it, February 2nd in LA. Check it out at performbetter.com for their products and info on their educational seminars. All right, now it's time for the Results Fitness University Business of Fitness segment. I am continuing my little series here with Rachel Cosgrove of Results Fitness University. Rachel, thanks for doing this.
Thanks for having me.
All right, I wanted to give everybody a little background once again. For the last year, Rachel's been competing in obstacle course racing, and she got to the level of the World Championships in October. Pretty impressive. And obviously that takes a commitment. So in episode 1, we talked about kind of having the balance with, drawing the line between being a teammate to your employees and your members, as well as coach, as well as being a boss. And then talked about in episode 2 how to manage that time between, for every yes, you're saying yes to obstacle or serious obstacle course racing, there's a no. So you're out of balance there and how she handles that. Talked about last episode about risk reward and about setting up your business. So if something did happen in some of your pursuits, whether that be obstacle course racing, jiu-jitsu, or ice hockey, that you're set up. And today I wanted to talk to you about something that maybe nobody talks to you about because they might be intimidated by you. This is really a question that I have because of my wife. And, the last couple of years I was doing... I joined my client at the World Indoor Rowing Championships. Now, that sounds like it's pretty impressive, but it's not. All you need to do is sign up and you're in. There's no qualifying or anything like that. And I went to go support them, and I saw a bunch of these older people, like seriously older, 80s and 90s, doing it. And I was like, man, this looks like just a great event. They put on a great event. I'm going to do it next year. So for the last 2 years, I've done it. And we go up to Boston, which we love, and I told my wife, why don't you do it next year? And she doesn't want to do it because she's intimidated. She feels like she doesn't want to compete with people. And she doesn't want to compete with us, like my buddy's, my client's girlfriend. Maybe she's going to end up competing with her. So how this relates to you is, here you are, you're coming into your gym every day. You don't make, you tell everybody that you're doing, on social media, we can follow all of your obstacle course racing adventures, I should say. So everybody knows you're doing it, and you're kicking ass at it. And you have Sawyer Shea there, who is an employee of yours, who's also kicking ass at it. And so, I could imagine, some of the members might be like, yeah, I don't think I can do that. Those guys are badasses. And so here you are trying to set up something maybe for your business, like Alan talked about in his Executive 2.0 lecture a couple of years back, like having some of these different teams, whether it's powerlifting or the running club or the OCR club, to kind of keep your clients engaged. So how do you balance that, not intimidating your clients when you guys are at such a high level?
Yeah, and I definitely, when I started competing, because I first did my first Spartan Race as part of the team, and it wasn't competing at all. It was really just running alongside our clients and to support them and to experience it and see what it was all about. And so a couple years into it, I decided, I really want to try to compete and see what I can do in this sport. And definitely, I think, making sure you're not like, what stories are you telling yourself? Like when you asked this question, I was thinking about, I think when I first thought about competing, I was telling myself the story of, I'm better off just, not taking this seriously and just, running alongside our clients because they need me. And, it's better for me to be able to connect with our clients, at that level, and not like just thinking about what stories are you telling yourself? I don't want to intimidate my members. I don't have time to focus on my own athletic goals. I'm afraid they'll think I'm being selfish. And how am I going to connect with them if I get too serious about this? And so, I'll just stay, and honestly for me, I had turned 40 and I was actually it was starting to get harder for me to stay in shape. And I was kind of becoming what my clients all become, because I didn't have a goal. I wasn't pushing myself. And so for me, taking on, something competitive was a goal for me. And so what I feel like has happened is giving me that goal has given me, I was training anyway. So it gave me new motivation with my training. It gave me a new focus so that my clients now are following my story and love seeing that, I'm competitive again because they had seen me compete years back. And, just seeing me make that comeback and knowing that in your 40s, you can still accomplish whatever you want to accomplish. And so I guess it kind of depends on how you spin the story. And always, always, always reminding them of where you started from. So you can't be afraid to share your before if you're going to share your after, right? So you got to let them know, I get you. I get what it's like to be, to be in your 40s and, not want to maybe prioritize, your fitness or your health and, really putting it on the back burner and how easy it can start to slip, and I do get you. So for me, it's actually been quite the opposite. I've been, it was interesting because I was worried about that. And I've had so many clients that just are so hanging on every post I put up and, always come up to me and tell, oh my gosh, it's so inspiring watching your story. And we have a lot of new members who, I'll meet them out and about town and or maybe even past members who end up on my social media and end up coming into the gym because they're like, I'm so inspired and I want to start working out and, thank you for sharing your story. And so it's actually been the total opposite. So just, I think the thing that you got to be careful of is people like your wife, there are people who do not want to compete. And we have most of our clients don't want to compete. That's okay. I would never, she probably wouldn't have fun. She probably wouldn't like being competitive. And that's why we have a lot of our teams are complete teams. So you just want to complete it. You want to, take selfies during the race. You want to, cross the line with your friends. You want to, it's not about trying to be competitive. And that's the majority of our clients, and they have a blast and they accomplish more than they ever thought they would accomplish. And then we do have a small group who are on our competitive team, that as Sawyer and I have gotten more and more competitive, have also gotten inspired to, become competitive and are, signing up for the race in the competitive division. And so seeing them start to take on, bigger goals and push themselves. And so there are going to be, not everyone is, most of your clients are not going to end up becoming a competitive athlete, but how can you use, if you decide to get competitive in a sport or do something competitive, competitively, how can you use that story to share with your clients to inspire them, to do what they want to do, not necessarily follow in your same path. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I love it. That's just kind of really reframing it. Like you said, what story are you telling yourself? And at the end of the day, you've ended up inspiring a lot of people. Honestly, you inspired me because I'm thinking about. I was like, wow, I didn't realize until after you did it that you really only been doing it for a year. So you just decided that you wanted to do it, and because I was thinking of the same thing, and I was like, I don't know. But then when I found out that you had only done it for a year, I was like, you know what? Maybe I should try that. Obviously it's a big commitment, and I don't want to just do it. I sent you
the race schedule. You got to pick out your race, Anthony.
You did send me that. There you go.
I know. I sent you that race schedule. I know you're like, oh, this just got real.
Yeah, it did. It did. But yeah, no, reframing it. And I love that. But and then I don't know. You can't always worry about. Like you said, the majority of your clients they don't want to be competitive, and they wouldn't have tried anyway. You know what I mean? You're not really affecting them at all by doing that.
No, and I think what I've realized is the best way that I can take care of my physical self and my, make self-care a priority and really put that on the top of my list is by having a competitive goal. Like, it's just what motivates me. And that doesn't work for everybody, but that's what works for me. Yeah. And so by doing that, now I'm living the example that I want to for my clients. And I think you have to figure that out for yourself. Do I need something like this to push me to that next level of health and fitness?
Absolutely. Good stuff. Well, Rach, thanks so much for coming on and doing this. This is a little different than we normally do. So this kind of concludes our little 4-part series, but we got to do this more. So thanks for doing this.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Check out resultsfitnessuniversity.com.
Welcome to the Functional Movement System segment. My name is Jenna Gourlay, and today I would like to start a 2-part series about a baseball player who I worked with. For part 1, I'll go over how we examined his movement patterns and his movement capacity. This is a great case because it shows how we can maximize skill development in our athletes while working on more fundamental movements and fitness elements. This particular client was a 19-year-old right-handed pitcher playing for a junior college that was about an hour and a half away, so this kind of took back how much we could see him. He had strained his left oblique 6 months prior to seeing me, and while he had returned to pitching, he was not as effective as he was previously. His velocity was slower than before the injury, and his accuracy and his velocity both dropped off greatly after just the first few innings. He didn't complain of any shoulder pain, but he did describe this right shoulder fatigue after only those 2 to 3 innings. This client was originally referred to me for a pitching analysis to determine if there was anything wrong with his mechanics, but I am not qualified to dissect the complexities of his pitching for him, so I called him and I asked if he would come in anyway to look at his movement and his capacity. I explained to him that we'd make sure there was no problem with his balance, his strength, his power, or his energy storing ability, and make sure that what he was having trouble with was actually his pitching in general. Like I said, we know that he's having difficulty pitching, but without looking at his movement patterns and his fitness capacity, we can't necessarily blame his mechanics without having more information. So he had no pain, so we started with his FMS, or his functional movement screen, and his FCS, or his fundamental capacity screen. Now, where the FMS is the function-based screen, the FCS looks at the physical elements of his performance. The FMS is going to look at his movement patterns, and it's going to determine if he has the minimal level of movement competency to put capacity on top of it. The FCS is then going to look at his physical elements of his performance and determine if he has the minimal level of capacity to then put skill on top of it. So for the FCS, we're going to look at 4 main quadrants of his physical attributes. 1, movement control, or balance at the limits of his stability. 2, postural control, or the ability to maintain posture under load. 3, explosive control or power. And 4, impact control, or the ability to recycle that power and energy. Basically, the FMS and the FCS results are going to tell us if the trouble that he's having pitching is purely a pitching problem or possibly a movement or a capacity problem. When I went through his FMS, all of his patterns were either a score of 2 or 3, which puts him in the range of acceptable or optimal movement competency. We then moved on to the FCS. We looked first at his motor control screen, which is looking at his single leg or single arm balance at the limit of his stability. This is much like that Y balance test, only the motor control screen only gives one component of that snapshot of his motor control. So since there's research that supports a correlation between Y balance scores and injury pathology in pitchers, I went ahead and I looked at the full Y balance test. For him, I want more than just the snapshot that the motor control screen offers. We looked at his carry screen, where he's carrying 75% of his body weight, to get an idea of his postural integrity under a load. To look at his explosive control, or his power, we had him do a broad jump, and then we dissected out that broad jump by having him do one without his arms and also having him do one on each leg. Finally, we looked at his impact control, or how well he could recycle his energy with a bound and also a triple and a double broad jump. For him, he had asymmetries with his upper body and lower body motor control screen, and there was a big difference between his right and his left sides. His Y balance test confirmed this, showing that there were asymmetries in multiple directions for both his upper and his lower limbs. His carry screen, or his postural control, was below where we'd expect, along with his energy storing and also his power control. The fact that he had low scores for his Y balance test and for his carry screen is concerning. This is an athlete that we want to be able to generate large amounts of power during his pitching, but his foundational balance and his stability is low. We want him to throw with velocity, but he's having difficulty stabilizing on one leg and maintaining good posture under load. we want him to be able to work on his pitching mechanics, and we may be able to tweak his pitching mechanics, but his body's not going to let him use all that power unless we improve his foundation. Besides the low scores on the motor control screen and the carry screen, he demonstrated an asymmetry in his power control and his energy storing or his impact control. So while he's able to do well bilaterally with jumping, he struggled on his right lower extremity compared to his left side. Once we have all his data, it's now time to start working on his physical resources. So stay tuned, because that's what we are going to talk about next time when we discuss how we improved his pitching velocity by using the screen to dictate our training. That's it for today. My name is Jenna Gourlay, and this has been a Functional Movement System segment. For more information, please check out functionalmovement.com.
Hey, this is Adam.
And this is Tim.
Welcome to the Train Heroic Data-Driven Coaching segment.
Here we go, baby.
Let's talk trust, Tim.
Oh, I cannot wait. I love trust.
So you had an interesting conversation with Coach that
I did.
kind of thing comes up frequently. So tell me about that.
Yeah, so this actually happens quite often, but a coach was asking me about when he's not in the facility with his athletes, that he's just got to trust them to put in the right data or log data at all. And my answer was, well, yes, right? I mean, that's kind of the basis of setting expectations as a leader, right? Is developing that trust and developing that relationship.
Yeah, and I think trust is a basic part of any functional relationship.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So we can run another parallel to that, which is I was at that sport biometric conference a few weeks back in San Fran, and somebody from a sports organization was talking to me. We won't name names here, but it was an interesting story. Is that they were saying that their team wanted data from what the players were doing in the weight room, but coaches were afraid of entering data into like a computer system, because then somebody'd be able to see what they were doing.
Oh no!
And I was like, that sounds like you have a dysfunctional organization,
right?
Somehow, right?
Exactly right. And that's kind of where my point was. I didn't mean to poke at this coach, right? But my point to him was like, don't look at the technology at Train Heroic as this is gonna assure compliance. I mean, that'd be awesome if it did, but like this is more of a deeply rooted issue, I think. To collect accurate data, you got to make sure your athletes understand why you're doing it.
Sure. Let's talk about why somebody would lie about what they did, though. Right? Why would they do that?
Yeah, I mean, really, you'd think like. I mean, I don't know. That again, like it's got to be set up so they understand that this is going to benefit them. It's not really about pleasing the coach, right? It's about how we're going to get to where we need to get to achieve our goals, and that's set up throughout. That's like the foundation of developing a culture and having a shared understanding of where we want to get to.
Well, that goes back to what we mentioned before, which is that the athlete has to know that this is for their benefit.
You got it.
So like, it's not for your benefit. You're not using it to punish them if they do poorly.
Right.
The point is that if I ask you about your readiness, I want to know how you're doing. Right?
Sure.
I'm not going to get on you because you slept poorly. Although if I see it all the time, I might say something. Hey man, what's going on with you?
Right.
And then the athlete is going to know. You have to know that you care about them and you care about their success, and not about you're going to be mad some weird father figure.
No question. I mean, and their punishment. We talked about punishing these athletes. Their punishment is going to be not playing when the time comes.
We're not succeeding,
right? And because they're gonna know right off the bat when they get to camp or wherever that, oh man, I'm behind the 8 ball here, right? I'm not where I'm supposed to be.
I mean, just think about if you're an athlete. Make it clear. It's hey, what happens if you lie all summer about what you did? You're logging all these numbers. You're going to come here and I'm going to know. I expect you to do a certain thing. You're not going to be able to. Right?
Exactly.
And then
right.
What's going to happen? That's not going to help you in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, you're going to get crushed is what's going to happen. So that's the bottom line. That's the expectation you as a coach have to set from the beginning.
All right, that's going to do it for us today. Go to trainheroic.com to start your 14-day free trial. When you're talking to one of our representatives, be sure to tell them the Train Coach Podcast sent you for 10% off a year of the Pro or Elite Edition.
All right, now it's time for the Hit the Gym with the Strength Coach. And today I have on my old friend Joe Bonyai, owner of Progressive Resistance and founder of the 3D Strap. We're going to talk more about that later. Joe's just introduced that, and he's got some great videos online, and we're going to talk to him all about what that's about. But right now, he is a performance specialist at Elite Health Services in their Westport and Old Greenwich locations, focusing on return to sports fitness and athletic development. He's also an adjunct lecturer at Lehman College in the Bronx in the exercise science science department. Before that, he was operating his own athletic development training facility in Westchester with in partnership with a physical therapist. I actually did a Strength Coach TV there because I think it's a great way to get trainers to kind of, if you don't have your own space and you're looking for your own business, partnering with a PT is great. So we talked all about that. And we're going to actually get into that today as well. He was the former strength and conditioning coach for the Staten Island Yankees, who are the Yankees farm team. Played baseball himself, college standout at Gettysburg College, master's degree in strength and conditioning at Springfield. He was doing some GA work there, was a head strength and conditioning coach, and coached 9 varsity teams in a 2-year period. So, Joe, thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Anthony. Thanks for the trip down memory lane.
Yeah, man. And, it's funny because I can remember, I think when Coach Boyle first started StrengthCoach.com, I remember getting you on. I think you wrote an article. You were GA at the time, I think, at Springfield at the time, and or maybe 1 year out, and we did a little interview on the article that's on StrengthCoach.com. But yeah, this has been a long time coming.
It has, and I'm not really sure. I'm still not sure why you had me. Looking back, like how long ago that was, and how little I know, comparatively speaking, or I think back to what Coach Boyle and a lot of people say is that the older you get, the less you feel And I think when I was 24, everything was so clear. Now I really don't know anything about anything. I feel like I'm just kind of winging it.
It's so true. It's so true. Well, I was telling you earlier. I've kind of had you on the radar for this stuff only because I think, some of your social media, I think you like to make people think without it just being clickbait or, because you're not selling anything. You're just kind of, that's the one thing, like you're bringing up points online that, on Twitter, on Facebook, whatever, just to make people think. And I think, it challenges people and it gets people talking. So I wanted to get you on for that. So, but what's funny is I said, Joe, what do you want to talk about? And this is before Coach Boyle started doing his Coach's Minute with Coach Boyle on Instagram. And then he went on this whole rant like over the last week with sports-specific training, right? And you had written down, like, let's talk about sports-specific training. So we're still going to talk about it. So, here's the thing with you is that you've been involved in 2 sports. So I want to get into this thing. You've been involved in 2 sports heavily, baseball and golf. Good golfer. I golfed with Joe at Bethpage. Actually, we had a fun night. We didn't get to play the whole course. It was too long. 17. We played in the dark.
Too many strokes.
There you go. You played definitely, a great athlete, and you've had great experience in those sports. So those sports lend itself to sport-specific training. What's your take on this whole thing?
Well, yeah, to rehash, last week I was actually exchanging emails with Coach Boyle, and it was more like me begging to come to Woburn and introduce the 3D strap. And as soon as I was confirmed, as soon as he, kind of gave me the green light and we set up the schedule, I think an hour later on Facebook, he released the anti-sport specific video. And it's one of those things where, I consider Coach Boyle kind of my industry boss because I owe so much. I owe my start to him. If people don't know that, it's a pretty interesting story of how I got my first internship, and it was through an email that Mike had sent literally overnight. And so I still have an incredible amount of gratitude for Coach, and so I have. I try to interact with him as much respect as absolutely possible. But, the tone of the anti-sport specific content, I don't agree with. And it's funny that right before we have this conversation today, he posted a video on how to interact with and communicate with parents and potential clients regarding sport-specific training, and specifically when they asked, do you do sport-specific training or baseball-specific training? And that's what came to mind when he posted that video was, well, we're in the service industry. We're in the communicating with clients and prospects industry. We have to speak their language. And I think that's the most important takeaway that any trainer of any degree of experience really needs to hear and continuously hears is that we have to get out of our own heads and we have to speak client language. Alan Cosgrove's been saying this, forever, I think on every segment that I've ever heard, if we can't, if we can see what John Smith, if we can see through John Smith's eyes, we can sell John Smith what John Smith buys. He said that, that's something that, I try to teach my classes. And so there's so many supportive comments of the sport specific stuff. I don't understand where everybody's mind's at sometimes, because I think that if your dinner and your bills depend on you attracting new prospects and relating to clients and being compassionate and empathetic and non-judgmental, if somebody comes into your office and says, you guys do, tennis or gymnastics specific training, absolutely. Like, I'm the guy. Like, you're not going to get a better experience anywhere else. And like Coach Boyle said in the video today, if you have some kind of intimate knowledge about that sport, that's when you're really going to get the buy-in, and then everything begins to look the same, no matter what or similar, I should say, during the actual experience. So I'm not sure I like the inflammatory tone to attract views, and I'm not saying it's even purposeful, but it does tend to attract views and comments. I think we need, as an industry, to start getting to the point of the things that are really, really important for new trainers and old trainers to take away, and that is always, speaking your client's language, and you can still be the best resource and be professionally responsible in your training methods after you get them on board.
Absolutely. I mean, I think for me especially, I had my gym was called 5 Iron Fitness. I just really kind of was trying to attract golfers, and I won't go. I say it's more than 10%, because for me, we always kind of had to we worked specifically on certain things that maybe the golf pro was talking. Hey, they don't. They're swaying. So we're going to look at like some things that might cause the sway, some physical limitations. So that's where, for me, the sport-specific piece goes. And we are going to work on a little bit more hip mobility. We are going to work on a little bit more core stability. We're not going to try to lift 2 times body weight deadlift or, whatever. We still going to get single leg strength. I think that's Coach Boyle's point. I think maybe it all evens out. Like he said, 10%. 90% is all the same. I would say, maybe in golf there's a 20%, that 80% is the same. But maybe in football and soccer it's closer to, I don't know, whatever, like 5%. So like I think everything evens out to that 10%. But there's definitely, absolutely, with the marketing piece of it, I agree. Now, what about you? What do you feel like about that number with 90%?
Man, I think that it's probably true when it comes to the buckets or like the compartments of exercise. I mean, we have like movement improvement bucket, which is going to include our, soft tissue work and joint mobility, whether that's kind of isolated or more dynamic. Everybody's going to do, something in that bucket. We have, then we move into resistance training, which may even include like the sport specific, or I shouldn't say that, agility and speed training, where you're going to be doing plyos, and you're going to be doing maybe movement mechanics. And now, if you're working with a cross country runner, like was his example, you're still, I think now this is where it's almost like an experience bias comes out. I agree with Coach, and because I'm coming from, the athlete's performance, now Exos mindset, where, the cross country runner needs to train in multiple directions to build structural integrity, the ankles, the knees, the hip, in the trunk. They can't just work, in the sagittal plane all the time. So there's a tissue resiliency component to it. There's, probably a motor control component to it of working outside the sagittal plane for the cross country runner. So doing shuffling, doing push to base, doing lateral plyos can be at least, what Brandon Marcellus say, sport transferable.
Yes.
And that's what's most important. So we have the movement improvement, we have the resistance training. We only have a very limited catalog when you're working with athletes. We have a squat pattern, deadlift pattern, or pull pattern, push, pull, rotate. And if you're carrying, everybody's going to do a variation of that. And then conditioning is probably going to depend on the phase of training that you're in with each client. And yes, it's definitely going to look similar. But I don't think the methods or the exercises are where we're tripping up nowadays. It's how do we become the best visible resource in our community, at least to the prospects that walk in or inquire, those passive prospects. And I use like really elementary analogies from teaching, because I want to say unpack this down to a really digestible, and it's not going to be, there's no pun intended there, digestible level, is that I use the idea of like a restaurant. And like no client's ever going to come into our gym if it was a restaurant and say, could you give me, protein, fat, carbs, fiber, and water, even though that's what in vitamins and minerals, even though that's what they need. They're going to ask for steak or a burger or a turkey or, mashed potatoes and something. And so when we're selling our services, we have to, package it in a way what they're asking for. We can't respond or have the emotional instinct to respond if they say, do you do blank specific training? And you say yes. And you're like, well, we just want to clarify here. Your son's going to be doing a lot of the similar things as other athletes. Don't even go there. Don't try to be professionally responsible. Don't like worry about your mentors being in the back of the office listening to what you're saying to this client. Your job is to speak their language, is to get them on board with some enthusiasm, with some good body language, so they have some vigor when they approach your training. And then if you can't communicate the benefits of all of those compartments that we just kind of went over in their terms, then that's on you to learn more about their sport. But everything you do can be related to the positions in the, we'll say, not to be too technical, but the kinetics and kinematics of field hockey or gymnastics or golf. So it's really about becoming, I don't want to use the word better salesman, but being able to relate to your client's reality a little bit better. And I think that's where a lot of our education should move, but should emphasize in our social media.
Yeah, and I think with Coach Boyle too, it's like, the video he posted today probably could have dampened some of the conversation, just because he's talking about, and he did put one out last week about learning to speak coach. He's been, that article was written 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's what we're talking about here, right? We really are. We're talking about learning to speak that language. I think TPI, nobody does a better job of that than preparing people than TPI, in my opinion, is like preparing golf pros to learn the fitness language, from fitness pros to learn the golf language, etc. So we can have a better conversation. So good stuff. Joe, let's go. Let's move into some, like, while we're on this kind of sports idea, Mark Watts posted an interesting tweet. Most of us agree that coaches should encourage athletes to play multiple sports in most cases, but keep this in mind. Are they great athletes because they've played multiple sports, or were they able to play multiple sports because they were great athletes? Probably both. That was his answer. You were saying, look, if they want to come to you and, if you're going to get, before you kind of start talking about the 6'7" NFL tight end who started as a basketball player in high school, playing multiple sports is absolutely encouraged, but it's not the rule for the exceptions to the rule. So just give us your thoughts on this, because I have some thoughts on it myself.
All right. So I'm speaking, and probably, from probably too much from my own experience. But I think a lot of coaches will agree with this. An athlete when they walk into the gym, like whether they're 12 years old, 17 years old, 25 years old. When I was working, at Empower, when I was working at Springfield, I almost knew immediately. And I don't know what it was about them. It was some kind of sixth sense for, this kid is committed. This kid's looking me in the eye. I feel a heat coming from he or she that this is their place. And looking back at my own experience as an athlete, good athletes were good athletes from a very young age. Now, are great athletes predisposed with some ability? Yes. Is it fortunate? Would it be fortunate if they have, supportive parents who have the money to pay for lessons, to play in a geographically competitive area where there are travel teams, and, other adults who are kind of scouts and are bringing them up to more competitive travel teams at an earlier age so they can play on higher competition. Yes, it's multifactorial. But I really am, man, my opinion in this, and this is opinion, is that society is determining, which athletes get, the best opportunities, and those tend to be the better athletes who are naturally better athletes at a young age. Now, on the other side of that, if you're not planning on being a professional athlete, or you don't think you're going to be a professional athlete, then it's absolutely beneficial to play as many sports as probably possible for a variety of developmental factors. And like I said, it was on Twitter, I think, it's good for everyone. It's a good idea, but it's, you didn't become like, who was it? Like Rob Gronkowski didn't become Rob Gronkowski because, he played basketball. He was going to be Rob Gronkowski no matter what. And specifically, as we're kind of on the tangential topic right now being golf, there aren't too many multi-sport professional golfers. And those kids, who make it on tour, even though they're such an exception, there's so few of them to make it on tour on TV, they are ridiculously good, ridiculously young, like 12, 13, 14, approaching, +2 or +3 level handicap, which is absolutely out of control. And I don't really know where that comes from. So that, I'm still in search of that type of development personally. But yeah, I think it's just stuff that there's some topics in our industry, especially in our corner of the industry, and on social media, that people really agree with. And I'm just like, I don't know why you don't see the other side to this. And this is kind of probably leading on to the rest of our conversation of, the things I've been posting online.
Yeah, well, I would say, not to argue with you on that, but, you did mention they come in the gym at 12, 17, 25. These golfers are that good at 12, 13, 14.
Yeah.
I think the argument, and I think I've heard Coach Boyle make this as well, is have them play the multiple sports at 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, because that's when, they want the kids to learn to have fun, to play those multiple sports. I think Coach Boyle was the one who said, I'm not positive, but once they get to be 13 or 14, they can pick the one that they want to do. It wasn't like being multiple in high school. It was like growing up. So I don't know if, I don't know if he always gets that one across, like, oh, you should be a multi-sport high school athlete. If you're really pretty good, you probably shouldn't, because you're in danger of getting hurt.
Yeah, I know. I 100% agree with that. If that's the, if that's a more accurate kind of portrayal of his stance, 100% on board. And I don't train 7, 8, and 9-year-olds and haven't. But you know what they look like. I can't imagine putting a kid into one sport that young, or if there is the local societal pressure to get kids into sports that young. I don't look forward to that. That's for sure. I do not look forward to making those decisions.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Leah, let's talk about a couple of other posts. That was one of your posts on Twitter. Another one was you were talking about, I'll quote you, "It's easy to let the style of training you get paid to implement coerce you into believing it's right for everyone." And you posted a little picture, and you compared Smith machine / hack squats to goblet squats. You were saying Smith machine, easy to perform, easy to feel in the target muscles, easy to load, but deemed not functional for reasons unknown. Goblet squats, harder to perform, easier to feel in your arms. Loading is limited. Everyone online says to do them. Expand on this argument, because this can be really misconstrued. I'd be like, Joe doesn't want to do goblet squats. He's sitting there doing, hack squats all day.
It's not intentionally inflammatory, but if it comes across that way, I'm not really concerned. And the context of this is, I think, what especially fitness professionals who are familiar with, online voices and influencers should know is that, I mentioned, Coach Boyle being what I consider kind of like my industry boss or, a guiding mentor in a way. Well, I work at Lehman College. And so, a professional boss of mine is Brad Schoenfeld. And he is a strong supporter is not even an accurate portrayal. An adamant supporter of evidence-led or evidence-based practices, research-supported methods, and a contextual perspective of the application of exercise. And if you follow the online conversations, it can appear that the two sides of the field are on different teams, which this isn't a good way to describe it, that I'm kind of stuck in the middle. Mm-hmm. So for instance, I'll give you a good visual. Like in the morning, I'm on the strengthcoach.com forums, and then in the afternoon, I'm going to Lehman College, where I'm working, literally next to the classroom that Dr. Schoenfeld's in. And so I have to honor two what seem to be very opposing, I call them almost like ethos, like emotions. They seem to be emotions, but they're professional value systems. And not to say that Coach Boyle and that side of the field are not evidence-based. But I think they look at the two teams, look at each other, and they disagree, and it becomes inflammatory. And I wish everybody would just talk it out, truthfully. So when I make posts that seem to be contrarian to even my former self at 25 and 26, because I kind of am self-deprecating sometimes online, where I say, like, my 25-year-old self would punch me in the face if I ever said, that Smith machine squats were a valuable addition to somebody's program. And I can tell you now, I'm exactly at 10 years of being paid to be a fitness professional after grad school, is that if I had a Smith machine at Elite Health Services, I'd Smith machine squat every single person I work with. Because while I'm teaching goblet squats, which is a very beneficial pattern for innumerable reasons, the Smith machine squat may be a better way to load them in an extremely spine-friendly way. They're going to feel it in their quads. They're going to build a better mind-muscle connection. I'm going to be able to better systematically, and I'm kind of emotionally connected to this idea of like systematic progression that needs to drive exercise selection instead of just making something a little bit more technically complicated. So the Smith machine, you just can kind of keep adding weight, this 2.5 pound plate on either side every week, even though that's even unrealistic for an extended period of time. I believe that exercises technically, if you're in the resistance training bucket, resistance training exercises need to get technically more simple over time. That means we do less coaching. That means we can almost turn our back and walk away because the athlete or individual can just nail the technique. They're on autopilot, technically speaking. With goblet squats, how do you pick up? How does the 45-year-old female tennis player, adult mom pick up the 75-pound dumbbell from the floor? Is that even a smart idea? Procedurally, can she do it? Absolutely. Is there a better option to load her legs in that pattern? Under your supervision? I think so. And I'm trying to see both sides of the coin, even though I don't even really like that analogy anymore because I want it to be all on one side of the coin. Smith machine squats definitely have their place. If I had machines, if I had leg extension machine, leg curls, I'd use them as well. Because I have clients who are complex, where if I'm doing, reverse lunges with even some assistance, forget single leg deadlift patterns, it looks ugly real fast. And I'm not getting the buy-in. They're here to work out. I need to fatigue some muscles. I need to make their legs a little shaky when they're walking down the stairs, when they're leaving Elite. I need to feel like, it was a good workout. Joe's a good guy. He understands my condition. He's not trying to we're doing things that don't provoke pain. It's stuff that I wouldn't do on my own, and I probably wouldn't do if I wasn't at Elite. And that's kind of my professional job description now. And it sounds so dumbed down, but I'm not afraid to speak like that anymore. And I'm going to use the inputs that are safe for my clients, regardless of what they are. And that's kind of my stance. But I'm not married to any exercises anymore, which is a huge, huge change in my, we'll call it, professional emotional development.
And, I think there's a lot that's saying, you got to give them a little sizzle with their steak is another good way. Because, you had another post. You were like, if an athlete comes to you and says they want bigger arms, more ripped abs, something tangential
Dude, do it.
performance, you give it to them. You're saying, please don't say, well, we need to make sure you move well before we load you. You can do both.
Yeah, for sure. And again, I wish there was like a little parentheses, a little like asterisk I could put at the bottom of every social media tweet saying like, I'm always speaking to my former like know-it-all self. And I knew for certain that machines weren't functional, and that Smith machines were worthless. And there were articles online like 10 better uses for a Smith machine, and it was like hip mobility, and it was those like football hurdle type drills that all the linemen are doing. And I think working at Lehman and really having to value what where Dr. Schoenfeld's coming from, because it's a very professionally responsible perspective. When I'm educating the kids, I can't just speak from experience. I can't speak without having some substantial artillery in defense for my opinions. And what's also interesting to me, and there are people that I owe like a lot of apologies to early in my probably my academic when I was in college and grad school. But Dr. Margaret Jones at Springfield, who was teaching 22-year-old know-it-alls in her strength and conditioning class first year of grad school at Springfield, used to tell me the quads don't know what's going on. The quads don't care if they're in a leg extension machine or a Smith machine or a leg press or a squat. A stronger quad is going to have, is going to be a part of a body that has better potential to protect that knee and deliver force into the ground. Is a leg extension specific? No. But if you look at the research regarding, knee rehabilitation, you absolutely need to strengthen quads and hamstrings. Any method will do. Any method will do. And if you can balance out asymmetries between sides, even better. And if you're preparing somebody for the field, then you need to honor principle of specificity and choose exercises that are more kinetically and kinematically and energetically specific. So it's all of it fits. It's just the context is really, really important. I'll just stop there. We'll talk more about complex clients probably in a second.
There you go. Well, you can put, I think in your Twitter description, you could put all tweets are directed towards my former self.
Dude, it's so true, and I'm going to do that because if if I had the opportunity to, I teach a class at Lehman called Fitness Programming, and I teach Introduction to Exercise Science, and it is a few kids. It's normally like 15 to 25 kids, and there's always probably 3 to 6 or 7 kids who are entertaining the idea of becoming a fitness professional. And even more interesting is that some of them are already working in like the commercial chain gym setting. And I hear what their fitness managers are telling them. And it is, in as moderate of a tone as I can, I try to give them a balanced perspective. I try to have them see both sides, because the one thing that I don't think anybody can refute is that if you see as many sides to this coin or Rubik's Cube that is being a fitness professional, it makes you more versatile. And that's going to help your book of business, your client load. And that's really, really important. And it's not something I could digest when I was younger. I couldn't even see it. It's like I didn't even have eyes for it. It's like I never turned over the coin. It was very strange because I didn't consider myself very closed-minded when I was younger, but it's almost like I had tunnel vision, which my mom would say that I've had my entire life.
There you go. Joe, let's get into this idea about training complex clients you were talking about. You've been in physical therapy centric places with Empower when you were kind of partnering with the physical therapist there, and with now with Elite, really, like Elite is really a physical therapy clinic that has performance specialists like yourself. So first, let's talk about what is the you do have to train a lot of complex clients. Explain what a complex client is to you, and talk to us about how you're managing that.
Okay, I work at the company again. It's called Elite Health Services. We're in Greenwich, Connecticut, and Westport, Connecticut, and it's what's called a cash-based practice. And truthfully, it's probably primarily considered a physical therapy business first due to the volume of physical therapy sessions. And it's one-on-one physical therapy. And more often than not, clients find or patients find Elite Health Services because they've explored other channels. We're like an out-of-network provider, so people are paying up front and then, attempting to try to get reimbursed through their insurance. But, they've probably explored more in-network providers prior to coming to Elite. And nothing, I shouldn't say, their previous experience hasn't resolved their issues. And so by the time and if they get progressed to personal training, they have they're likely to have a fairly complex injury history or physical past, whether that's surgeries, injuries, illnesses, and there's the first date, as I say, you have to be a little bit more sensitive to the variety of things that they're bringing to the table. They're not clients who are, they're never looking to lose 10 or 15 pounds in 90 days. It's never a green light. Let's prepare for golf season. It's let's prepare for golf season because, every time I go back to the driving range or, when I'm doing my exercises at home, my back flares up. It flares up when I'm sitting. I'm on, I'm on the plane and I've tried everything. I've tried every different method. I bought the appliances. And so I don't want to say I'm the last resort, but sometimes it does feel like that. And so I do, and this goes for all of the trainers at Elite, where we all have this type of client load. Again, to be totally transparent, it's not every client. Some clients are, very, very straightforward, kind of return to running, return to golf, return to life, fitness programs while they want to just look better and feel better. But there is a special nucleus of clients that have some things going on that need to be taken into consideration.
And how are you approaching that though?
Honestly, what I found is that as a trainer, I don't know how to say this without saying arrogant. At my level or a level of experience, years of experience, we have the trainers at Elite. We have all the tools. I'll always say nearly all the tools, right? What we're bringing to that client session in terms of skills, exercise selection, is enough. What becomes more important is not just the intellectual agility, but the emotional agility, the communication skills, and as you said, the little sizzle that makes somebody feel comfortable early on. So during initial strategy sessions, which we call them, which are our first sessions, things like being very organized, making the expectations very clear for the session, reassuring them and clarifying all of the things that they've laid out on the table, giving them a kind of a clear outlook to the curricular nature of your approach. We're building from the ground up. I'm going to find the things that you can do pain-free, and I'm going to adjust, based on your feedback. I'd let them know I don't know if this sounds counterintuitive because I know there's experienced coaches out there that are saying, man, this stuff is common sense. And this goes back to probably, something that Coach Boyle said in 2009 when I was first getting started, common sense ain't so common. And so if, you have to level up with a client with, a complex, we'll say history, and do all of the little things a little bit better to make them more comfortable, because what they're not comfortable, what they're not is comfortable, and what they don't feel is control. And if you can give them an emotional sense that your hand's on the steering wheel, you're putting their hand on the steering wheel, and you're gonna guide them through a very well organized experience that first session, you set things off in motion in the right direction much more quickly than if you do this. And that is have a standardized operating procedure that includes trying to find things that are, dysfunctional, and then using almost, and I'm not to degrade the functional movement systems, the FMS or movement, but it's very, very easy for a trainer to read Movement, the book, and take the SFMA and begin to try to become a pseudo-physical therapist where you're using breakouts to find, provocative, isolated provocative patterns, when in reality, you can use a much more simpler approach and communication with the client to just let them know that you're continuously listening for their feedback, to put them in a routine of exercises that is going to make them feel better and isn't going to provoke pain. Again, a lot of it's common sense. And I think it comes down to, doing the little things in that first session a little bit better, being organized, being more prepared for that session. Now, into the future, into the relationship with that client, it is about, sticking to things that aren't provocative. So, playing into the, like Dr. McGill's, pain-free patterns, or pain-free exercise menu, sticking to those things and believing in it. And this is where, the more complex my patients or my clients have become, and the older I get, the more experienced I get, the more I believe in simpler is better. My exercise catalog, even though when we get to the strap and people see the videos, they're like, oh man, new sport specific exercises, new things that are going to make me feel stupid. My exercise catalog is so limited and, we'll say so similar between clients. I almost hope nobody comes in and observes me. But I do it because of the, I guess you could say, results, and the results in my, at Elite at my job are retention and utilization. Clients coming more than once a week, 50 weeks out of the year, for 3-4 years now working at Elite. And so I'm sticking to what works.
Absolutely. Joe, we're running out of time, but I do want to get to a couple things, and let's go to some of your lessons after what you considered failure. But I do want you to just kind of give trainers out there who want to get in or might have an opportunity to work with a physical therapist in a therapy clinic as the trainer. What would be one or two things, like, even though you just did kind of go over, but just to sum up really quick, what would be a couple things that you would say you would direct them, like, you got to do it this way? Looking back from my personal experience, that be a personal trainer, be a one-on-one personal trainer as long as you possibly can. And it's not dead. And if your space and environment call for it, don't go to business seminars in which somebody's going to tell you that you need to progress from personal training to semi-private training when you haven't developed the rapport and the reputation in the community. Those one-on-one sessions are going to build your reputation and relationships with people that will be the roots of any the potential small group or semi-private business in the future. And be concerned with, taking care of yourself first before you decide to, grow a business in which, you're developing this ideal business too soon before anybody knows you in the community. Sharpen your tools one-on-one for as long as possible. As long as you can endure. Don't try to build a business for Facebook or to put on Instagram, because you may fail in more ways than one. And the second thing is in the actual in terms of internal operations, is understand that, like I say this to my class, and I say it in a variety of compartments or components of my courses, and that is form matters, but friends matter more. And that will be true for your career. I am a extremely technically minded, introverted person, to the point where, again, I consider it almost pathologically introverted. And you have to take the pressure off yourself to be the smartest trainer in town, and you have to exercise yourself, and you have to stress yourself and challenge yourself to just be a little warmer than maybe you're to the people that you work with, a little warmer to people who you may not see eye to eye with professionally, because not everybody's brain is so focused on the technical elements of training as it is
as it seems online, especially in the, in the forums like strengthcoach.com, where you can walk out of there and it bleeds into the rest of your day where you're thinking about exercise selection, and what the, how the function of the piriformis changes at the different degrees of hip flexion. Like, that stuff doesn't matter in real life, and it doesn't matter to the person necessarily sitting next to you in your office. And that's probably going to be much more it's going to much more largely or significantly determine your longevity in success in that workplace. And you can make a really good living working one-on-one and working in a business that isn't what you foresee to be your ideal, your dream environment. So don't apply good advice in the wrong context. Take what's given and make the most of that environment, and be a rock star. Inside those four walls before you try to grow too soon. It's very easy to lose patience.
Great advice coming from somebody, like I said earlier, with your bio, somebody who's worked, in colleges with, college teams, in the, minor leagues. He was a great athlete himself. Had your own facility with another physical therapist, and now working under Elite Health Services. Certainly, that experience is there. So good stuff, Joe. Let's talk. Let's finish up. You got this new product. It's called the 3D strap.
Yep.
And tell us a little bit about the strap and how this came about.
It's all right. So kind of physically, to give everybody a visual, it's a long strap, nylon webbing, reinforced with some neoprene attached to a D-ring that, it ends up being like a total body cable attachment. If you check out the videos, you'll see that it can be attached to really the upper trunk, or the hips and pelvis, and it's resisting the body when the strap is when the strap is applied or worn. It's applying resistance in multiple planes of motion, uniquely in the transverse plane and in the frontal plane. So it's really going to be ideal for resisting total body rotation, multi-segmental or independent segmental rotation of, we'll say the rib cage, thoracic spine, or the lower trunk, pelvis and hips. So superficially, it's going to be useful for rotational athletes and multi-directional athletes. The idea of the strap is really what I guess I consider a dormant idea in the industry. A very, very, very small amount of people were either using something similar or using some kind of contraption in their gym, rigging something up. And I just had a conversation via email with Jason Glass, who's going to be trying out the straps, and he said, it answers a question for me because I was trying something very similar with a few bands, and this just looks like it's going to work much more easily. And Jason Glass, as probably some listeners know, is a prominent rotational power expert and PGA Tour golfer, strength and conditioning coach. So those are really like the seminal, architecture and functionality of the strap.
Very cool. And where can we see more information? We're going to have a link on my site, but just so they can they can see, because you got to see the videos and to really get this.
Yeah, I have like a 2-page website. It's whatsthatstrap.com, and there's like 2 lines of sales copy, and the rest are videos because at least initially the early adopters, all they're going to need to see is the videos and the fact that it's a multi-directional training tool, rotational power monster. It's a hands-free training device, so if you have somebody with a wrist, elbow, even a shoulder injury, you can apply some load through that system without having to worry about them holding on to anything. I really think that's going to hit home for a lot of the listeners that are listening to the Strength Coach podcast or on the strengthcoach.com forums, because I know training around injury is big in our community as part of some of our core values and our core services offered. Again, that's the website's whatsthatstrap.com, and then I do have an Instagram that kind of parallels the website, and that's What's That Strap on Instagram, and I'm posting more current and updated edited videos with some instructional information in the content. The website's going to grow, and I have to add definitely more of the instructional component, because I don't want to get people to get tangled up, no pun intended, in using the strap.
Very cool. I will recommend everybody check it out. Joe's amazing athlete, a great mover, and don't be discouraged by how well he moves, because you're not going to move that well. And any questions, we'll have, like I said, we'll have all of Joe's information at continuefit.com. So Joe, thanks so much for coming on. It's been a long time coming. Love what you're doing, and just keep up, keep fighting, keep making people think. Thanks so much for your contributions on strengthcoach.com as well.
I appreciate it, Anthony. Thanks so much.
All right, that's going to do it for episode 247 of the Strength Coach Podcast. Remember, you can try strengthcoach.com out for 3 days. Just $1. You'll have access to all the articles, videos, and programs, as well as the best forum on the net. It's the only place to have full access to Coach Boyle. He's on every day. Go to strengthcoach.com, click the Join Now button to get started on your trial. All right, special thanks to Chris Poirier and the folks over at Perform Better. Remember, they got free shipping on orders over $59 with lots of items on sale. The next one-day seminar, LA, February 2nd, Alan Cosgrove, Greg Rose, and Martin Rooney. Check it out at performbetter.com. Thanks to Coach Boyle and Jill Bonyai for sharing their insights and philosophies into the world of strength conditioning and performance enhancement. Thanks to Adam Doughty, Tim Robinson, and Train Heroic. Guys, you got to get on this online training thing. Head over to trainheroic.com. Start your free 14-day trial. Let them know I sent you. You'll save 10% off your first year of the Train Heroic Pro Edition. Rachel Cosgrove for the Results Fitness University Business of Fitness segment. Check them out at resultsfitnessuniversity.com. Thanks to Jenna Gourlay and Functional Movement Systems. Check them out at functionalmovement.com. My name's Anthony Retta. Go to continuefit.com for all of my resources. Thanks again, and I'll speak to you next time.